Hey, what's up, everyone? You're currently tuned into TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara and netnetradio.com out of Tijuana. Today, Lietoc and I welcome Midwest modular moneymaker Marsha Fisher.
Hello.
So, Marsha, what have you been up to in the last year? Like, what have you been up to? What's been occupying your time?
Uh, a lot of different things. I've recently relocated to Minneapolis.
Okay,
I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska, where I was born.
nice.
Uh, I probably won't get too deep into this because it's pretty dark, but my fiance got diagnosed with uh leukemia, so we've just had to completely end what we were doing and relocate
Yeah.
because so he can get treatment at Mayo Clinic. So
Mm.
we're pretty much kind of here for the rest of our lives just so we can kind of be near that. But I mean, it's been pretty wild. I was living in Duluth or near Duluth for like a
Hmm.
while. Uh,
And Duluth is in Minnesota?
yeah, Minnesota
Okay, okay,
also.
okay,
So it's
okay.
like I went from living in Nebraska, middle of nowhere, like 20 miles outside of Duluth in the forest.
Yeah.
I was there for like 6 months and now I'm like back in the city as of 2 months ago. So it's like,
It's kind of like a definitely like a culture shock, like kind of a shift for sure than from what you were doing
yeah,
before.
because it's the big thing has definitely been like because Lincoln's pretty big. Lincoln's like 300,000 people. There's like a
Hmm.
college. People aren't like culturally illiterate or anything.
Yeah.
And like uh, I moved into like a town of like less than like 10,000 people called Cloquet. And when I
Okay.
would say like I was from Nebraska, they were like treat me like, oh, I came out of the boonies.
Really?
Yeah, like I am like completely culturally illiterate. This is like my first time in like
Wow.
like, oh, we're 2 miles away from, Minneapolis, it's like people that have like, I don't know, I don't want to belittle anyone or sound judgmental, but it's like a really interesting experience. Like people don't understand. It's like, no, I'm like, I'm cultured. I think I am at least,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, like I'm not some like hick.
Yeah.
I don't know why people would treat me like that. I feel like I'm like obviously like a really
I would
like not masculine or threatening person, I would hope.
yeah. 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 So I guess like how are you liking living in because you're actually in another big city, right? In Minnesota or
Yeah,
Minneapolis. So how are you
yeah.
liking Minneapolis specifically?
It's great so far. It's
Yeah.
like I haven't been going to much shows just because, my fiance's uh has been immune compromised
Yeah,
until
that's fair.
but the stuff that I have been to has been pretty sick. It's like occasionally you get like the weirdo shows in
Yeah.
Nebraska.
Yeah, I was gonna
Like
say,
recently I saw like Jamie Branch.
oh
Like there was
wow.
like a free concert that she was playing
Hmm.
in like a park. And then
This guy
also
doing
like
good.
Emdo Mokhtar was I also saw him.
Oh,
Really? In
I'm seeing him
Nebraska?
next week.
That's
Oh,
so
tight.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
sick, dude. That's
I'm very
awesome.
excited for the Tao Sounds opening. That's gonna be incredible.
Oh, that's tight.
Mhm.
That'd be great. Yeah. I'm trying to think of who opened for him here. I think they were called Pure Adult.
Oh,
They're pretty weird.
that'd be
It was pretty
hype.
cool.
That's sick. And that was in Nebraska, right? You said you saw
No,
MU. Oh,
Minnesota.
you saw them in
Yeah.
Minnesota. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, sorry. This is yeah, in Nebraska stuff like that occasionally comes through, but
Yeah.
like the coolest shows that I think have been like either ones that I've like put on myself there for
Yeah.
like touring bands or
Yeah.
like I don't know. There's only like a few like real like weirdo venues throughout the entire state.
I was gonna say, I feel like Nebraska isn't necessarily always like a hub for like where you hear like experimental and just like wild stuff coming from, you know? Um,
Yeah, I guess. Living inside of it, you definitely, at least if you're like me, you kind of like gravitate towards that kind of stuff.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. You probably find the niches. Um, so I believe you said you were in school too. So do you want to talk like, how's school been going in like the digital age? I know you said like you kind of like just started again, right?
Yeah, yeah. After like spending like 6 or 7 years away.
That's
I like
awesome.
dropped out of school to like become a cook
That's awesome.
like full time, and then well, with the pandemic, that's just a like terrifying career path.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just saying, like, I saw you post on your story. You made some pumpkin curry. It looked delicious, by the way, for
Oh,
anybody
thank
that's
you.
listening. So I'm sure they're a better cook than all of us. I'm sure. So
My fiance made that actually.
oh really? Oh
Yeah.
well, your fiance looks like a really good cook.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll tell him you said that. I'm sure he'll be flattered.
Yeah. So Maddie said, believe you may be working in a hospital too. Is that a thing you were doing as well?
Yeah, that was pretty rough too. That was when I was living up in Duluth
Okay.
or near Duluth, sorry. It's the Midwestern thing where you say you're from like the nearest like identifiable city, but really
Yeah.
you're like, 20 miles outside of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was intense. It was definitely
Was that like during COVID and everything?
yeah, that
That's
was
in, that
starting from last October, the day after Halloween.
Oh my god.
that's
So
rough, bro. That's insane.
Yeah.
yeah, it's been
So how
it
long were you?
was
Sorry, go
so
ahead.
uh I was there for like oh man, I quit in June or May, end of May or beginning of June, I can't remember, but it was I don't know. It was a good last cooking job to have because now I'm just like not going to miss it.
I was gonna say, so were you a cook there? Like that is so cool. Like honestly,
Yeah.
I'm a fan of hospital food. I'm not gonna lie. Like hospital food
Eh,
kind of slaps sometimes.
it's it's fine.
And I'm sure if I was like a patient there and you were the cook, I would have been so hyped. I'd be like, dude, we got Marsha on the grill today, like we're
Oh
gonna
my,
be eating good. Anyways.
you wouldn't. No.
You wouldn't.
I, I again I don't want to put anyone down, but I mean hospital food's disgusting. At least the stuff that I've had. I
I
mean,
just
it's not as a vegan. I'll put that out so
okay,
people can make
yeah.
their own presumptions about
Okay.
who I am and
Yeah.
what my sensibilities are. But
Yeah.
I also work in a prep kitchen that also does pizza, and yes, I can understand. I can see where you were coming from. I'm, now that being said, I enjoy my product that I make.
Yeah, I was a pizza chef at one point in my life for like 3 months. So I have a little bit of cooking experience. I learned how to toss, like do some of that action.
yeah.
Um,
Love Legends.
yeah, have you ever specialized, can you cook pizzas and stuff? Like do you know how
Oh
to like
yeah. I like the job before I had to move was at a this really sick pizza place in Lincoln called Yaya's. That's like really it's like 30 years old, which is kind of like a while for like a Lincoln restaurant.
yeah,
But it's like just been like a place where like all like the punks hang out and stuff.
that's sick.
Like everyone that works there is a musician, so it's like they're like really like if you're going on tour and stuff, it's like super easy to like work that out.
Hmm.
All your coworkers are guaranteed not to be like you know uh uptight or
Yeah, like
anything.
give like fuss about like going on tour, having a show that
Yeah,
night or anything. Yeah, dude, that's sick actually. We need more punk pizza joints, dude. Like
yeah, for
honestly,
real.
I might just move to Nebraska or move to Lincoln just so I can work at Yaya's, dude. Like
Do it.
sounds like a better gig than I have, honestly. So, um anyways, I guess should we hop into chatting about like some music and stuff? Maddie, do you want to take us on the first little spin here?
Oh, I think we could get going on that. So let's see. I think I maybe have a couple on my hands here, but throughout 2021, it's been a big year for Marsha Fisher music. We've had so far to date at least 4 albums, and I can't find one of them I wanted to show the tape of to make sure because Mike from Tabs Out did send me one of your releases, but I do have the split in my hand along with First or New Ruins. And again, all of these albums have really been traversing quite a bit of varied atmospheres, and they come out of synth and then also tape manipulation, also phone sketches and field recordings. There's a lot of stuff. And I guess before we maybe even dive into any of that, just really like going back to the beginnings there as a musician, what were some of the formative like kind of tape moments or inspirations that came through
For like tape specifically,
for stuff that you've been doing since 2017 into
yeah.
like the present period?
Let's see, a lot of it has to do with like, I guess there was like some early act like exposure to it from like I was really deep into like a lot of like the New York experimental scene, like the Zorn area.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And there was a band called New Firmament, or not. There was a label called New Firmament ran by Nick Pogrinsky, who drums for a band called Extra Life, that put out these like really like cool synth tapes. There's this band Feast of the Epiphany that he runs that's like super tight. It's like drone inspired like neo folk that's like really like psychedelic. It's like Comus, but like through like way more distortion pedals.
Yeah.
Well, but like through that, and then like this other black metal collective from LA, I want to say, called Rhinoceros, who put out these like uncredited, labeled like demos or whatever.
Okay.
And they were just super sick. They're all like really atmospheric. There's like no information, or there was like no information about like who was putting them out. Like,
Yeah.
and this is like back in like 2009, 2010. And it was all like all the art was from this like children's book series, and it was all like really dark and threatening. And it's just like like it looks like legitimate black metal covers, and when you find out that it's from like some like
children's book or something,
yeah, it's like what is this book about?
Yeah.
But I really started getting into it because of a friend. I have to shout out Scott Schultz, who's also involved.
Simple Tapes.
Yeah. I kind of met him just through like experimental shows in Lincoln, Nebraska.
That's sick.
And he used to run a radio show called Other Music, which I ran for a little bit also.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Played like, yeah, he played for like a lot of like tapes, and like a lot of the stuff from like, it's like kind of a lot of crossover from Tabs Out.
Yeah,
that's tight.
But one of my bands was going to be like releasing an EP, and like we want to do a physical version. And so eventually we settled on cassettes just because it would be like easiest. And I'd kind of like done some like really like limited runs and stuff for like other bands and like projects that I've been in.
Yeah.
And like, so it was like, okay, I have to do this like release of like 50 tapes, you know, this is like different from, you know, oh, I'm just going to take some scissors, make a crappy collage and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like when it came to like doing stuff professionally, like I reached out to him for some stuff, and he gave me like a lot of like really good advice. Like in addition to being this kind of like to like exposing me to like a lot of like really sick like stuff. I think the first tapes like I ever bought outside of like my like own isolated bubble of like metal and experimental stuff.
Yeah.
That I've been like the first like things connected to like the tape scene, if you will, were like stuff that he'd recommended from like Constellation Tatsu.
Oh, nice. That's sick.
And that was like 2016, I want to say. I know because he posted a Carol Liz Coverdale album on Facebook that was just sick. It was all stuff like vocal manipulations, and it was all done with like random like Max MSP patches. And like that was like the first ambient tape that I was like, oh, this is like really. This isn't like new agey or like, I mean, not that that's a bad thing. I love new age and like that kind of stuff, but it's like, this can be like really like cool and experimental and stuff. Like this is before I got into like One O Tricks Point Ever. Like I was exposed to that kind of stuff. Cause like I was predominantly like into like metal and punk at this time.
Okay.
But like that definitely kind of got me, like kind of derailed me off of that path, and was like, you know, ambient's like sick.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's sick. I'm sure we've all had that moment too where we're just like, wow, this is actually really cool, and this is not punk or indie rock or something, you know, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to shout out all the ambient careers tags. I want to just
oh yeah,
all of them, because they're all great. Give it to them all.
So I know we chatted like a little bit about this, but I kind of want to talk about too, like your past like in bands and stuff, and like growing up in Nebraska and everything. But so you grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, like you were saying, like that's like where you're from, and you said you grew up in bands. So can you just talk about like what like the punk and like the metal scene and stuff was like to kind of give us like I guess some insight as to like where you're coming from, like even before you got into like this like tape scene or whatever.
Yeah. There's like actually a pretty big like punk and like metal scene in Omaha,
Oh,
which
really?
is just 45 minutes outside of Lincoln. It's the big city of Nebraska.
Okay, Omaha's bigger than
And
Lincoln. I thought that Lincoln was bigger for some reason. I don't know my
oh
geography.
no, Omaha's at least twice as big.
Oh, really?
But like a lot of that and like a lot of like the punk scene in like the 90s from like Lincoln have kind of like set the tone for like a lot of stuff.
I see.
Like like Connor Oberst. Wait, is that right? Yeah,
Oh,
Bright
yeah.
Eyes guy.
Yeah.
Like there's like he kind of like set a lot of tone for that scene, like the Faint
Oh yeah.
and them.
The Saddle Creek stuff, because is Saddle Creek still kind of based out of Lincoln? I know they've jumped around, but
They're definitely from Omaha.
yeah.
Saddle
Oh,
Creek is
really?
a road in Omaha they're named after.
Ah,
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That is so crazy.
But like a lot of people are pretty into that stuff. Like I pretty am I'm not like, you know, super into it, but like just through exposure, like, I've dug some stuff that I like, enough to like kind of like participate in a scene that's like kind of about that. I
Mhm.
don't want to sound like I'm implying that like Lincoln's all derivative from like Saddle Creek because like
Yeah.
there's like a lot of like uh you know sick like punk and hardcore
Mhm.
bands that have like nothing to do with that,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
kind of all which is all stuff that's been like happening since like the 70s and 80s and 90s and
Mhm.
stuff. But I don't know. That's kind of the stuff that like all my friends did. And just because of like, you know, I'm originally like a drummer and stuff,
mhm.
Mhm.
and there's
Okay.
always a shortage of or
Yeah.
there was always a shortage of drummers, it seemed. So like I started playing in bands with my friends and
Mhm.
stuff. The first one like really caught on was this one Gnostic, which I guess is more of like a metal band. We're like a mathy, kind of noisy, uh like instrumental duo.
That's sick.
It's kind of like maybe like Dysrhythmia or Behold the Arctopus, if you've like heard of that. It's like
Mhm.
complex stuff.
Yeah.
But then there's also like that, and then there's also this other band called This Machine Kills Vibes that I was in, which is
That's sick.
yeah, it's was like mostly like a post-punk kind of thing.
That's dope.
Like a lot of mostly like it was my friend Spencer who was like they're like a really big Sebadoh fan
Oh,
and
nice.
Chameleons, and we kind of shared
Yeah.
those two
Ooh.
things, and we specifically wanted to do something like Chameleons, Christian Death, like
Yeah, that's so
Echo and the
sick.
Buddy Man, that kind of stuff.
That's so
Okay,
sick.
yeah.
So like even though like that's stuff I've kind of like just kind of been parallel with, just because like the goth scene kind of like runs parallel to like a lot of metal stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know so it was kind of just like there's not a lot of other like really there's not like a lot of other stuff that's like really in like my vein
Mhm.
of stuff
Mhm.
kind
Mhm.
of in like Lincoln, so I could kind of just said compromise, just play with bands.
Yeah.
Even if we
Yeah.
don't like it, just for the experience and stuff. And it ended up kind of being, I feel like I might be like kind of missing some steps, but from my band history is mostly like punk and like hardcore kind of stuff.
That's cool. So you played in hardcore bands too?
Yeah, like nothing like really took off or became anything, but
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you're still playing like local shows and stuff.
yeah, because that was the kind of the important thing to me, is
Yeah.
that like
Oh yeah.
going to shows is fun,
Yeah,
and playing in
exactly.
shows is always a fulfilling experience.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I love asking this, and I feel like it's always like a really important question that we ask people in term that like do like noise and stuff, because it's like there always was some kind of background before you like got there, and I always like hearing that. I think it's sick. Um, That's really cool. So you played like drums and stuff. That's awesome. So do you ever like incorporate like any of like your drumming into the new stuff that you're doing? Do you still have like
Uh,
a drum kit and everything?
yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
have like a band called Seahurst or band that I do stuff with. It's like a like progressive kind of really like nerdy metal project.
I honestly love that you're doing stuff that's just like not like what's typical of like a rock band or something. Like I think that's so cool. You know, like nobody does that. It's always like, oh, we're just gonna do like an indie band, you know, or like something like that. But that's so sick. So it's called Seahurst?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it used to be called something way more embarrassing, but
What was it called before?
Crustacean Nation.
That's honestly so sick, dude. I just love like the ocean vibes, dude. And I just love how you guys are from the Midwest, like nowhere near the ocean. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, that is so cool, dude.
but
Mind fucked.
yeah, there's that, and then my other band Gnostic is still kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Uh, we're trying to finish up an album right now, but I think
Oh, sweet.
after that's done, we're still trying to do stuff because the guitarist from that also moved up to Minneapolis just because like another one of our really good friends was living up here, so it was like
It was just
they kind of
natural. It was just natural at that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna be like maybe doing like a new project after we finish wrapping that up, but
That's awesome.
that's still kind of on the distant horizon. But aside from that, in like the tape stuff, I've just like recently started doing like tape manipulations of like recordings with like my drums.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I haven't really had a chance to play them since the pandemic started, so it was like a year and a half I had to go without touching them,
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
which is definitely probably a big reason why there's like why I've like put so many tapes out of like experimental stuff recently, just because I'm not able to focus on band stuff.
Yeah.
But
That makes sense.
you know,
Yeah.
solo projects are more like recording based
Yeah.
kind of. They tend to be more or they tend to seem more productive because it's like there's nothing to rehearse or there's nothing to continuously rehearse. You
Yeah.
kind of just, at least during a pandemic when there's no shows, you know, you have something, you record it, and then it's done, you know, unless, you know, you intend to play shows, but you keep recording. Whereas it's like bands, it's like, you know, like on top of like a reason just to hang out with people, it's like you have to constantly be, you know,
Yeah.
rehearsing
Yeah.
and stuff.
Practicing and stuff. Yeah.
So it's like, so like while it seems like while that's definitely a good thing and like you're kind of like cutting your teeth on songs and stuff, there's less to present from that aside from concerts and stuff, which aren't happening or weren't happening for the majority of the pandemic.
Yeah. Totally.
I'll get us going here. So I've got New Ruins over here, and in the liner notes for it, you mentioned that the recording for it had started back in 2017 and that it was assembled over the course through the next 4 years up through 2020. In that time, really, what was kind of the catalyst to start that recording? And then was your gear setup or general kind of modus operandus towards the compositions changing?
My setup for the whole thing was all tape loop based.
Okay.
Nice.
It kind of, if I'm correct, the songs were recorded in the same order they were on the album, but the kind of main process I had with it was tape loops running through my modular synthesizer. It's in my basement, so otherwise I'd show it off. You know, if you're gonna spend $1,200 on something, you know.
Oh, hell yeah, absolutely.
Might as well show it off. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of that was like I was really into like the kind of concept of like recontextualizing like kitsch. Like it was kind of like sparked in from like vaporwave a little bit.
Oh, nice.
Like a lot of it's kind of like ironic, which I don't like, but there's definitely like a really big part of the scene that like is trying to take music that like a lot of people just like hate now, like, you know, jazz fusion and like new age, and they're trying to like, I don't know if this is like true, this is just kind of what I get out of it.
Yeah.
they're trying to like put it in a context where it's like, you know, this stuff for its time in the what's the word? In like the cultural setting that it was in, like
Mhm.
when you take that into account, it kind of rules like a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like so that was kind of like the big thing, but like at the same time I had like a bunch of like unreleased recordings of hi Poppy.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was doing like a lot of like recordings, like noise stuff with like thrifted cassettes that I got from Goodwill.
oh hell yeah!
And you can just imagine the kind of like weird Christian praise cassettes
Oh,
that you
yeah.
find in a Goodwill in
That's all.
Nebraska.
That's all you find for the most part. But
It's really funny. Someone posted or claims they found a hefty black metal load at a Goodwill, and it's like this doesn't happen.
if
This made up, but
yeah.
it just feels too good to be true. But yeah, I've shopped through Goodwills. Like I've gone down to the border to just dig through cassettes because I'm looking for Windham Hill. I'm looking for environment. Like
Yeah.
like I said, I've got it over here. The like the environment tapes. I love these. Really, just want to like find them.
Yeah, those are sick.
And then in between that, it's like getting the '80s pop tapes that were so common, and now years later, it's like, yeah, this is still the bar, and maybe people should try to find a new sound to mine. But like, I love it. that's I feel.
Yeah, for sure. Eventually, like I started like finding like I'm trying to think of the label. I know I have some of the stuff saved.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I was gonna say, what are some of like the examples of like stuff that like you've just like thrifted and you're like, this is sick. I kind of want to work with this.
oh, I don't want to work with I don't want to talk down Christianity, but the kind of gross uh like like enterprise side of it
Yeah,
that is definitely reflected in these like in some of these tapes.
yeah. Are you talking
Like
about like some of like the televangelist like music or something that they would release to like tape and whatnot? Like, is it like that type of gospel stuff?
kind of more of like there was this really like weird so I'm trying to find I don't think I yeah,
No, you're
okay.
good.
It's nowhere. I there was this label, I can't remember what they're called, but they were like this Christian they were offshoot of some other like major
Is it Tooth and Nail?
no, it's a Christian label.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a Christian label.
Tooth and Nail has Starfire 59, and they are a big Christian label.
Are they
Oh,
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is Starflyer 59 Christian?
Absolutely.
That's wild. I didn't
That's
know
Christian
that.
gaze.
That's
One of my
Christian
favorite
gaze.
shoegaze types.
That's so wild.
But for like a while in the 80s and 90s, they did like easy listening and like new age
That's
stuff.
sick.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
New age Christian music. That's dope.
one of them that I found was like really bad. It was like it was the music was sick, but it was put out by this label. And I just remember like the front of it had like New York and the Twin Towers were there. And it's like, oh man, this is just super reminiscent of that Macintosh Plus album. This has to be gold. And I looked at the song titles and it's all like, it's all like quotes from the Bible and stuff. And it's just like really like I like where's the overlap here? And it's like
yeah.
And it sounds like like Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. It's
That's
like
honestly sick.
It's like
dude.
really cool.
That's honestly
There's like
cool.
one crappy like tropical steel drum MIDI song that's like really just bad on it, but the rest of the songs are actually like really good. But
They
like,
thought they were going to change the world.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I think they thought that they were gonna get some money out of. I don't know. I'm not. But so with New Ruins, a lot of that stuff, I think, comes from like a lot of those tapes.
Yeah.
All that stuff is like based on tape loops and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and manipulation. The very last one on side A, I can't think of it because I'm.
Oh, First Frost.
Yeah, I know that one comes from like an instrumental section on like a hymn tape, I think.
That's honestly
Wow.
cool, dude.
But
That it's the piece that I love to. I've played it on KCSB a couple of times because it's a really it's my favorite one. It reminds me a bit of Oval and a bit of Keith Fullerton Whitman, even just
oh,
the
cool.
and so to see like, oh, it's coming from a Christian hymn tape.
Yeah,
This is awesome. Yeah.
it's yeah, all that stuff is just super processed too. Like like even before it gets to like, you know, my modular synthesizer, it's running through like chorus and delay pedals and stuff. So it's like I did not want the like samples to be identifiable at all.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like,
Are-
you know, kind of, I mean, a lot of the stuff I was doing was just kind of at random. Like I would just take a tape
Sweet.
and then just like pull out different bits of it, make a loop out of it and see how
Yeah.
it sounds, and then just kind of like, you know, spend the evening seeing if I can get any good loops out of like one specific tape.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then from that point, layer on the effects.
Yeah.
Sizzle it.
Yeah,
That's
because I
awesome.
mean, with a lot of that stuff, maybe in contradiction to like what I've said, I think sometimes the musician's intentions are like kind of pure,
Uh-huh.
you know, or at the very least they're like good musicians and they have good chops and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like there's some sick solos I've heard on like crappy Christian like easy listening cassettes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I feel like instead of like trying to completely just like throw this entire like this entire like scene of musicians under the bus as much as I really, really want to.
Yeah.
You know, it's like kind of a forgiveness thing with like based off of just like the traumas that I've had just off of living in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like there's some redeemable aspects to this, you know, kind of internally. Like I'm not gonna try to say like that's what I want the listener to like experience, but I
Yeah.
mean in my own internal like spiritual world, that's kind of like what it was trying to serve to me. If that doesn't sound too like pretentious or
No, dude,
but
that's sick.
I don't know.
That's awesome,
It's
dude.
it's honestly a reading of an album that I don't think. I mean, the new age stuff really continues to get more, I think, developed over Collage Works and the Orb Tape split, and those go though in completely different directions. When I heard what you were doing on Orb Tapes, I was like, oh shit, I didn't like. I'm like, oh, this is Collage Works. I really need to know. I need to give this another listen and
Uh-huh.
try to dive. And so I'm curious about like just the approach also for that, where you were really tackling with noise. And
Oh, for the Collage Works one?
for
Or
Collage Works and then
The
at least
Orb.
the start of the Orb Tape split as
Uh-huh.
it develops over time.
oh yeah.
It's-
So sorry, what's the question? Like
Um,
where was I
oh, yeah.
coming from?
yeah, so then again, on these next two releases you've done, they're just quite different than New Ruins. And I guess like what was the technique behind those really specifically? What was your effort or kind of modus operandus?
With Collage Works, a lot of it is it's called collage because it's all tape loop still, but it's all uh I don't know how to explain this. It's all different tapes cut and spliced together and put into a like single tape loop.
Oh,
Okay.
So it's like it's a tape loop made of like 30 to 40 different individual like you know like tiny pieces of tape that I've scotch taped together.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
So
sick.
it's all that, which is why it's called collage.
It reminds me of some of Amulet stuff because Amulets is also
Yeah.
really played with tape loops to that degree where it's all about even like unscrewing a tape and adding extra screws and yeah.
Yeah,
So now I can
definitely.
visualize. I see what like that's getting at, and then again, it's it more just like an analog process to what you were doing with New Ruins, but also noisier at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, no, New Ruins was like all analog. Like,
Oh, sweet.
well, maybe for the most part, there was some like mixing involved,
Mm.
and then yeah, but like, I just really like tapes. I think
Oh,
is
fuck
like
yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
what the fuck, like what the like basis for this like the entire thing is. Like, it's like there's so much cool stuff you can do with them.
Uh-huh.
Like if you actually take it and like flip it upside down, like if you take the tape, flip it upside down somehow, it comes out like muffled and stuff.
Oh wow.
And it'll like play like backwards, which is how like a lot of the stuff on
Oh, yeah, the first track on New Ruins.
Yeah.
When I was listening to it today, it reminded me because some tapes at the end of their side they play backwards, or they're playing, the side B or the side A.
Yeah.
I've heard this very specifically, like on Lowe's Double Negative. That was one where it really came through, and so that's what it sounded like it was replicating to me.
Yeah, no, that's all Gregorian chant tapes that I flipped upside down. So
Oh,
they're like
that's
backwards,
sick.
and then you like change the play speed of the cassettes so they're slowed down and they sound real eerie and weird.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
But yeah, I think the main difference kind of emotionally between that and like New Ruins is also like the pandemic just ended up being a complete trash fire.
Yeah.
And like dealing with that, and like my fiance is like leukemia, and just all of the drama that goes with that, like Collage Works was definitely kind of a catharsis for that.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff you can do with like tape manipulation.
That's
Like,
sick. How do you I guess choose your methods for manipulating the tape? I don't know, you said you splice it and stuff and flip it and all that stuff. How do you just figure that out? Is that literally all just messing around with the cassette and let's see what this sounds like?
Pretty much.
That's cool. So was this all a recent thing that you started literally because of the pandemic? It's I'm just gonna mess around. So you were doing this way before?
Yeah, I've been doing weird stuff with tapes since before I started recording New Ruins.
Sweet.
Oh, sick.
Because even some of the stuff on there was another Collage Works tape that I put out last year, and a lot of that, there was a few tracks on that came from around the same time that I was recording New Ruins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of info on the internet about it too. Amulets, like you mentioned, has a lot of videos on how to do stuff.
Oh, really? I didn't know that actually.
I think that's actually how I learned to make cassette loops in the first place.
Oh, that's really
watching
cool.
an Amulets video a few years ago, in 2017, 2018 or something.
Dude, that's wild. I didn't know that he had that. That's cool.
I kind of just do stuff on a whim, if that's what you're asking, how I choose my methods and stuff.
Oh, hell yeah.
I guess there's some emotional context that kind of goes through it, but it's I'll just be going about my business one day and be what happens if you take recently it was, I wonder what happens if you take the tape, cut it all into little squares, and then tape them together the wrong side, so it's instead of going the left to right, you're doing it from the top of the tape.
Oh,
and it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
There was a dude, my buddy Scott sent me, that did something similar to that in the 1960s and was part of this magazine. But
that's interesting.
Their method was different. They actually took a tape head and then actually drew tracks.
Yeah.
On the wrong side of the tape, because they did large magnetic squares that seemed to be based off of just pieces of magnetic of recording tape that they recorded stuff onto, and then they taped them together, pressed them to a master magnetic square, and then took this tape head and then drew other tracks parallel to the way that the other tracks were orientated, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then they made mass copies of that and then published them in a magazine. But
that's honestly sick.
I don't know. It's just any sort of maybe that's kind of where the kind of noise influence comes from, and that a lot of that revolves around kind of just messing around with consumer electronics and making noises that come out of them that you're supposed to.
Yeah.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, because that's something I've always been interested in. Noisy guitars and that kind of stuff. Feedback isn't an intended,
Yeah.
It wasn't an intended purpose, but there's a lot of really cool stuff that people have done with guitar feedback. They've put it in the context where it's that's why without the feedback this would be bad. The feedback adds to this,
Yeah.
Noise rock,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
In regards to again these releases that you've done, are they techniques that you are interested in replicating live? Do you think you could just kind of throw it together on the spot?
Kind of. I've done some live stuff. I did the live set.
Oh yeah,
for y'all. I think that's still uploading, but it's definitely different. I have it come from it from a different like mindset,
Uh-huh.
like because messing around, you know, I don't want like it's kind of like truly experimental where like, you know, I'm doing stuff that I have like no idea like what the result's going to be,
Yeah.
and you can't really do that in like a live setting, you know.
Yeah.
Even though that's like my recording process, you can't do that live. I'm sure there's someone that has, and if they've made that work, good for them, but it's like it kind of sucks to like I'm not good at it, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've tried doing that. Like I've like done like noise shows. Like I've tried like splicing loops mid set, and it just like doesn't work.
Yeah.
But definitely, the stuff that I do live has to be like the more experience, like the kind of like looking at it as a spectrum,
Uh-huh.
where it's like this is just absolutely like I have to look at my creative process as in like pure experimentation, where it's just stuff where it's like I have no idea like what I'm doing,
Uh-huh.
versus stuff where I like have to like I have control over it, and finding like the spot in the middle of that where I can actually, you know, find the spot where I can just, you know, phone it in and it still sounds good, you know?
Fantastic.
Like
Yeah.
the set that I did is like mostly improvised, I guess. It's all tape loops. It's all similar to like New Ruin stuff.
Uh-huh.
I saw that you all had interviewed a few other people from Full Spectrum, so I kind of assumed that that's the direction y'all had heard about me from. So I
Yeah.
kind of figured that was a thing. That was like what y'all were expecting.
So I guess like oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say just like round that off. I definitely don't make music with an intention on playing it live ever.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to playing live, I have to completely kind of start from scratch with like I don't have any like really ideas or concepts aside from like maybe like spare loops that I've had like laying around.
Yeah. That's fair, dude. I feel like that's like really a thing with like a lot of projects that I've talked to that have started during like I guess the pandemic or something like that, where it's like people are like, I'm kind of just doing this because like, you know, and like you're saying it's more like production based as opposed to like rehearsing and stuff. So it's like when you're just messing around and just like making something cool by just sitting there and just like messing with stuff to see how it like will sound and like just be sit and make it sound sick and like do all this stuff. It's like, well, if someone asked me to do this live, it's kind of hard to replicate that, you know? And it's like if I did do it live, it wouldn't be like the same vibe as like what I'm going for with this project that I did completely like, I don't know, like messed with on the computer or like on your synth or like whatever, you know, like with the tape loops and everything. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
So,
Because the other thing with tapes is that they can just mess up. Like, I mean, in
Oh, yeah.
addition to like them getting eaten, they can like tape loops can just snap.
oh, really?
Like, you know,
Big yikes.
I'm using like a lot of like old tape machines that I've like not treated the best over time,
Yeah.
which is like why I'm using them for experimental stuff and like tape loops and that kind of stuff. So it's like when I'm just messing around at home, it's like if anything goes wrong, it doesn't matter. So like
Yeah.
when I do live stuff, it's like I have to take all of that into account.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, that's also another thing to factor in is like the feasibility of doing it too, you know, and it's like
Yeah.
the practicality, I guess I should say. So I guess like you mentioned Full Spectrum and stuff and like Andrew Weathers, like how did you get in contact with Andrew and like how did you start working with Full Spectrum and stuff?
uh
Andrew's another homie of ours. We interviewed Andrew. That was a great time. Andrew's such a chiller.
yeah, he's so nice. I feel like compared to like the rest of the people on that label, I feel like I'm just like way more like aggressive than like the rest of them, even though like I think I'm pretty mellow, I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay, go back to the question. Let's not.
No worries.
Andrew reached out like beginning of 2020 to like he was booking a tour, and he knew me through some other people. I want to say I can't remember who he mentioned. I think it might have been Tony from Bad Cake.
Okay.
He put out a tape of mine a few years ago,
Mhm.
and I think that's who we got my contact from.
Nice.
But we were setting up a show, and then the pandemic kind of happened.
Yeah.
We had to cancel the tour,
Mhm.
and we just kind of kept in touch. And then I mentioned on Twitter, not to use, not to bring that up, but
well, the hell site, Nick.
yeah, I don't know how I let my dopamine addiction continue to like let me go back to that site every day. But I mentioned that I was like working on a follow up to this tape that I'd put out, Inverted, and he reached out to me to put it out.
That's it.
And that's kind of just the whole story behind it, I guess. And I was like really stoked because like, he'd sent me tapes from them before to like play on the radio show that I was running.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But yeah, I was like really excited about that. I think, yeah, Full Spectrum like rules. All the stuff that they have on there is like really like
that table that label, not table, is just like ahead of its game. I don't know why I said table. That label is just like ahead of the game, like all the time. Like everything they do is just like, Andrew, how you doing this, dude? And also, Andrew is a prolific guy. Like that guy masters literally everybody's work. And I just need to shout out, like, how do you manage like your label? Like, how do you manage like mastering literally everybody in the scene's work? Like, how do you run the co-op? Like, it's like it's insane. But that's awesome that like you're working with Andrew, and that like just a series of like connections or whatever put you in touch to be able to do that. So how'd you get in touch with Orb Tapes? Orb Tapes is sick. I actually only found them like a few months ago, but yeah, Orb Tapes is really tight.
That was through my friend Bob Bucko Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Personal Archives.
Yeah, he's affiliated with them to some extent, but I know he reached out to them about the possibility of me and Matt putting out a split, because me and Matt are also friends.
Yeah.
Because him and Bob have this duo, Sex Funeral, who is like one of like my favorite like Midwest bands.
Yeah.
It's like really just freaked out like improvised stuff, and it's like there's always something different. It started out as like guitar, drums, improvised grind.
That's tight.
Then like halfway through like one of their tours, they stopped using the guitar and Bob started playing saxophone, so it started being this kind of like it sounded kind of like almost like Albert Eiler, kind of like just like freaked out,
so
soulful,
sick.
like duo improvisation.
Yeah.
But then more recently they're getting into like consumer electronic kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so Bob hit me up about doing that. And yeah, I think the kind of idea was like just generally to get a split of like me and Matt out somewhere, because like we're friends. Matt runs this he used to run this really sick noise venue in Des Moines that I would go to all the time. Drive 4 hours to Des Moines to see noise sets, because that's what you do in Nebraska.
Yeah.
But
what was the venue called?
Matt and Michelle's place.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
a little exclamation point at the end. It just sounds so bright and jubilant.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then you just go to some terrifying noise show. Like you're just getting blasted with noise, and it's like Matt and what was the other person?
Michelle.
Matt and Michelle's place or whatever. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, because they're two. Matt and Michelle are both really wholesome people. I believe they're married now. They have a kid.
That's so sick.
But, it's nice. They have these cute bulldogs, and then in the basement, people, turn up amplifiers real loud and scream and punch walls. It's great.
That's so dope. So I think like we're coming closer to an end here. Maddie, is there any more questions you wanted to ask before we jump into our last few here?
I mean, I guess I've just honestly been really thankful to get insight into all of this work, also just because it's therapeutic in its own way. The fact that there is this like inversion of new age, but also this admiration and kind of, I don't know, it's really just lovely to hear about that. And we haven't heard the new tape yet, but we are still both excited. We've sampled bits. If you want to talk about Cloquet sketches.
Oh yeah, if you want to talk about Cloquet sketches, I've listened to a few of the songs while I was at work, and I played one of them on my show. But yeah, if you want to talk about that one too.
Yeah, all of those kind of came out of it was kind of something I was doing when I was living in Cloquet, the city 20 miles outside of Duluth. And I was living with my fiance's. Me and him were both living with his mom while he was getting treatment at a Mayo Clinic,
Okay.
which is in Rochester, which is 3 hour drive from there. Which kind of throughout that time, like it was kind of like an overnight move. So like I didn't really have anything with me. Like I packed up like, my fiance does like modular too, so it's like I packed that stuff up, like all of our modular gear, like just some clothes and stuff. So like I was pretty like stripped down in terms of like the musical equipment I had. Like all I really had was like my phone, my synthesizer, and like my laptop that had like the ability to do stuff. And my phone only really had the ability to take field recordings with.
Yeah.
So like a lot of those songs were, or all of those songs were different field recordings from just places like around that area. Because like that was the only way that I had to like make music at that time. And I was kind of like losing my mind almost. It was because like a lot of it would be like, my fiance would be inpatient, and his mom would be like down there caring for him. So it would be like long, like 2 or 3 week stretches where I'm completely alone in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
In Cloquet, Minnesota, like with like no outlet for like any of my grief, aside from this.
Yeah.
So like the way I kind of got around that was just, taking field recordings and then using those as the basis for the same process that I've done for like New Ruins and the rest of that stuff. So all of those are different. A lot of them come from hospitals, I'm pretty sure, too.
Oh wow.
Like no, I was about to say,
sorry.
The reason I was gonna keep doing it, but I have a new phone and they don't have headphone jacks anymore. So I have no way to hook my phone up to my modular anymore. And that's why I put it out on a tape like by myself, because it was like, this is a one and done deal. I'm not gonna like, phones should have headphone jacks.
Yeah.
It's dumb. I don't want to spend $40 on headphones.
Yeah. Can you use a dongle thing? Is it an iPhone? Can you use that like dongle and plug it into an aux or something into your modular?
Yeah, but they didn't give me one with the phone, and I do not. They're $60 at the place that I bought my phone. I was like, that's not worth it.
It's not worth. It's
I have tapes. I have Walkman, multiple.
Shout out to the Walkman.
Shout out to the Walkman. Yeah, screw capitalism. This is why we can't have good things, and this is why we only get one not tape looped Marsha Fisher tape.
Yeah, that's just a given. That capitalism's definitely a big frustration behind most of the stuff that I do.
Yeah,
I hope that like is there. I hope intense frustration with capitalism is underneath all of this.
That's just a baseline. That's just a baseline. Like when you go into Marsha's work, you just have to know that there's a hatred for capitalism buried somewhere in each track.
We love it.
We love it.
We're just like ready for that.
See, that's the punk. That's the punk influence. You know what I'm saying? That's the punk influence. You can tell you're influenced by punk because there's that like hatred for capitalism there. Do you listen to Crass too? Did you listen to Crass? Were you influenced by Crass?
I know that I need to.
Okay, I was gonna say, are you anarchist as well? Like, anyways, that's sick, Marsha. I love that. So before we head out, we kind of just, I guess, have like some more like lighthearted questions. So what's been on repeat lately? Like what's been like your go-to? Like what tapes are you picking up? Like all that stuff.
Recently?
Yeah.
All right, I have everything near here. I have my desk. As you can see, I have all my tapes behind me.
Hell yeah.
But all the stuff on
hack.
repeat, I keep on my desk.
We know, again, you're like a huge tape collector now. You've got the racks. We
love that.
I'm gonna the Bandcamp dives.
I need to get rid of some of this stuff. The two really ones I want to mention that are really sick are this. I hope I don't mess this person's name up. Winans and Pensado split that's on Repulgent Sepulchre, and it's just the weirdest stuff that I've ever heard. Like, I mean, not like the weirdest stuff. Sorry, I don't want to sound dismissive. Oh yeah, the weather one.
The weather, yeah.
But
Love Mike, lovely guy.
like occasionally, like, you know, I don't know what it is, but sometimes I'll just hear stuff that's just super like really far out and just like really separated from like kind of like music that I've been like listening to, and it just like clicks and it's like this is perfect. And that's
Yeah.
definitely this one. The what's her name? The Andrea Pensado side is just so good. It's
Yeah.
like vocal cut-ups, I want to say. She's definitely doing like vocalizations and like stuff, but it's like there's like synths or, you know, some sort of like oscillators going stuff with
Mhm.
like going through with it. I really don't want to. I really don't know. When I like music, I tend to like not deconstruct it as much. I think
Yeah.
I just like am like less bored with it, and that kind of part of my brain
Mhm.
kind of goes on. The other one is, I'll grab it real quick. It's right over here. The other tape I've been listening, I think this might be my favorite thing from this year, is this NF Jacques and Takamitsu Ota tape that was put out on TIS Tapes.
How do you
It's
spell
like
it?
a sound installation that they did, I believe. It's yeah, and it's just like a person like walking through it,
Mhm.
but it's just so weird. It's like a really like broad like field of sound, but it all like makes kind of sense. It has its like own internal logic, and like
Mhm.
within it there's kind of this like background of like stuff that's happening, but then other kind of stuff kind of comes into the foreground, and it's all kind of like unidentifiable. I don't know what Takamitsu Ota's method is, but I know that NF Shocks does like homemade like motorized like sound devices. I don't know how to say it. I know that there's one tape of hers that I have where it's all like ceramic bowls that she's hooked up to like motors that just spin, and then she places stuff that causes friction to them, and
Yeah.
like it's just like all based off of the different friction that she gets out of it.
That's
But
sick.
yeah, it's all really diverse, and it's all like really weird and like really like unidentifiable, and like I love that. I love having no idea like what is producing a sound.
So
You
what
know.
are these artists' name again? What's the
Oh, it's Anne F. Jacques,
and
and
oh
then
Anne F.
Tuckum. I don't know if you can see that.
How do
I
you
don't know if
spell it? How do
it's
you spell the label?
TIS tapes. It's
Oh,
TSSS
sick.
tapes. They're from
Are they Midwest?
no, they're from Europe. I want to say
Oh, wow.
I know the dude that runs it is from Spain. I think that they're based out of Italy though,
That's awesome.
or that's where they ship from at least.
Yeah.
Because the dude that runs it is Francesco Coverino, who's done like a lot of stuff. I
Mhm.
really like him. He's a really sick drummer and percussionist.
That's cool.
But
So, another thing we like to ask like all the people that we have on the show as well is like about their radio show. So can you like talk a little bit more about your radio show as well? Like I know you mentioned it briefly in the beginning.
oh yeah, it's not it. I don't have it anymore. I don't know. It might have ended. But it was called Other Music. There's another. There was a record store in New York, I guess, that was like really
Oh.
popular.
Yes,
But-
that they released the Mutual Benefit album, the 2013 one.
Oh, nice. But the name actually predates them, which is
Oh,
kind of
wow.
funny. That like a middle of nowhere experimental and like avant-garde show, like with like this like in terms of like I could tell like I went to Other Music once and I could just like see the overlap.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, they had like Greg Fox stuff in like their like recommended
uh-huh.
aisle, and like John Cage, and it's like that was kind of the same stuff that was being played on the show before I took over.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, it used to be around since the 70s too. It didn't have the name Other Music, but I know that there's been a show at the same time slot, which was like Sunday at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
On the radio station KZUM. I don't know if I can shout that out on the
Yeah.
radio.
What
I
is
don't
it?
know.
It's K.
KZUM out of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh, sick.
But yeah, it was really fun. That was like probably the thing I miss most about Lincoln is that like getting calls from people that are like not like just I don't know how like what the scene is over there, but it's like a lot of the people that are tuning into the radio at like 10 p.m. on a Sunday night it's a very mixed crowd, and it's pretty sick. It's like people that are like college students that are like are you playing you're playing Risodrol and Kirk like in the middle of Nebraska? Like I just moved here from California. Like I didn't expect people to play stuff here like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh hell yeah.
so like that's always sick. People that would just call us and tell us that, you know, we're ruining, you know, this, you know.
I've definitely gotten calls where people are like, this is the airwaves are sacred, and you're just like,
when you hosted that, when you subbed a show in 2019, one of vinyl shows,
our friend,
and you tried to do the character, and you got called.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god.
Our friend Miles, he like had this like insane show where he would like put on like a whole like act. And this one in particular was like a cult or something like that, and he would always play like the craziest like collage of like music and like all this weird stuff and make it like sort of like a story. And anyways, I tried to take over, and I was like, because I was subbing a show, and I was like pretending to be like a plumber that just got pulled in by the cult and was like, yeah. And I was like, I guess I made the plumber sound dumb, and so some guy called and was like, hey, like I'm a plumber, and like that is messed up. Or no, I was like saying that I was a janitor, and he's like, we're custodians, and was like correcting me and like all this stuff, and I was like, and some other guy called and was like, you're a disgrace to the airwaves, like this isn't even funny. Like, and I was like, oh my god, my bad, man. Like yeah, so I've definitely have experience with those wild calls.
Yeah, it's definitely a perk of that.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like the middle of the night.
Oh yeah. We've had some weird stories about weird in middle of the night weird calls. Yeah. That's awesome though. It's called Other Music, and the station was called KZUM.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bummer. So is nobody doing Other Music anymore, or like what's going like it's just stopped? Like
I'm not exactly sure. I believe that they ended it. I think that they're looking, or I know that someone mentioned that they were looking for like a replacement.
Okay. So is it just like I don't understand. Is it like not just like one person's show? Do they just like look for someone to fill that like weird experimental slot or something like that?
It's been like a
legacy
DJs, but it's like they like it's always the same DJs, but it's like they've like taken like it's the same people that like run the show, but those people like switch over time.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So like it started with these two people whose names I can't remember. Then it switched over to my friend Scott, who ran it for a little bit. Then my other friend Julie took it up after he had to quit for his job. And then Julie had a kid. I think that was the catalyst. And then she handed it over to me.
Oh, that's sick.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Well, though you're not doing radio programming right now, we always love when we have another fellow community radio programmer on the radio, and once a non-commercial radio programmer, always a non-commercial radio programmer. So that's sick, Marsha. We love that.
Yeah.
So that brings us towards like the end of our interview here, but we have like one more question. Actually, I'm going to ask you, where can people keep up with all things Marsha Fisher just before we go into this very last one?
Definitely the Bandcamp. It should be marsha-fisher.bandcamp.com. I believe that is, as far as of right now, that's probably the only way to figure out
what you're putting out and stuff. Yeah.
I have other social media, but those things have kind of those have definitely gone on a tangent from what they were originally supposed to be. They're all pending deletion.
Oh, really?
Always,
oh, man. I'm really going to miss seeing the pumpkin curry and stuff if you guys go away.
Well, I mean, they've always been pending deletion since.
Okay. Oh, so we're good. I'll just act like we're just regular programming.
Yeah. The concept in itself has been pending deletion since.
I see. Okay. Well, anyways, follow Marsha on their Bandcamp. And if you follow on social media, just know that it's pending deletion. You may not be able to keep up. Keep up.
404 files, beware.
Yeah, exactly. So, All right, Marsha, before we go, we have one more question. And Maddie, should I hit them with it?
I think I could do it today.
Are you sure?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, Marsha, we're just gonna like tell you beforehand. We've been getting some. It's a weird one, but you just don't think too into it. So
Okay.
yeah, all right.
So, you're going through your stacks of tapes, the Christian stuff, and you open up one of the tapes, and a little Bible rat just jumps out of the tape, and it's gonna jump into your mouth. There's nothing you can do about that. It's just that's gonna happen. But you do have a choice in this case. Bible mouse could jump in your head, or it could jump in the head, or it could have its butt jump in your mouth. And why?
Are you asking if it goes head or butt first?
Yes.
Oh man.
We always have to like try and like say it in a more elaborate way because we get a lot of people that are like, "Wait, you want this rat to go into my butt or my mouth?" And it's like, no, like head first, like rat head or rat butt, like.
God, it depends on what his vibe is, honestly.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, it's a Bible rat.
Okay. So not butt first, because that way the tail goes in first, and I don't have to worry about that dragging down my throat. It'll be, tail goes in first, and then it probably wraps up, and then it's just a mouse at that point. It's not a mouse and then a trailing tail that I have to feel. I feel like that would be the worst part.
Yeah,
Either
that would be pretty wild. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how I'd be able to fare a rat tail either. So that's a great answer. Thanks, Marsha.
I think you tamed the rat in that
You
case,
tamed
honestly.
it. How'd you do it? And we also love the friendly answer because we got a vegan here. Yeah, we get some violent ones, and it's like that person's not a vegan. Anyways, all right, Marsha, that's all we have for today. Thanks for tuning into TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. and NetNet Radio every Saturday at 4 p.m. This is Marsha Fisher. Thanks for being on the show, Marsha.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, we're going into a new programming schedule for fall. So TBD may or may not be Tuesdays 8 to 10 p.m. It may change. And follow TBD on socials at TBD Presents, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for our new October schedule coming up.